Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. A lot of just nonsense. Not a good year to be... I mean, there's been some moments, but I just feel like coming off this last season and then going into this off season, it's just been a really wild roller coaster ride if you're a Dolphins fan. Like, really, really crazy. So we'll start with this. Like, this is just whatever news story regarding Zach Wilson's contract. Zach Wilson, this comes from Pro Football Rumors, signed a 1-year contract worth up to $6 million, fully guaranteed. The Dolphins guaranteed Wilson $6 million per Miami Jackson's. Let me restart. The Dolphins guaranteed Zach Wilson $6 million, according to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Wilson only counts $2 million on Miami's 2025 cap, as the team added 4 void years to keep that number low. So it's a 1-year deal, which only counts, it's fully guaranteed, but only counts $2 million against the cap. It's a pretty good deal. Yeah, I like the Zach Wilson. I know it's very divisive. I really, to me, this was the best scenario. I'm not a huge fan of Marcus Mariota. Don't like Andy Dalton. I think Zach Wilson actually can develop into something. And people forget, like, if you at least go back and look, the last 2 years of Zach Wilson's career are pretty decent. They're pretty good. And his upside is much better than those other guys. And he's only 25 years old. And I would rather... And he's very gifted physically. Like, very gifted. So his ceiling is very high. And he had some really good games as his last year as a Jets starter against the Chiefs. He played really well for the Broncos in preseason. So to me, this is a great signing. I know I've talked about it a million times before, but to get him on a cheap deal for nothing, and he's only $2 million against the cap, it's pretty good. This next news story is kind of crazy. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins restructure Austin Jackson's contract. The Dolphins have made a number of moves amid a carving out of the 2025 cap space. That process has included a restructure of right tackle Austin Jackson, as detailed by Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, who's honestly the only person who actually reports the news. And out of all the Dolphins, I swear out of all the Dolphins beat writers, he's the only one who actually does his job. It's not opinion based. It's actually like, oh, this is what the Dolphins are doing. This is what I'm hearing. It's not, oh, this is what I think they're gonna do, which is for some reason pretty much all the other beat writers do. Anyway, let's get into this. $9 million of Jackson's base salary for next season has been converted into a signing bonus. So $9 million of his sorry guys, all over the place. $9 million of his contract has been converted to a signing bonus. As a result, his 2025 cap hit has been lowered by $7 million. Excuse me, not by $7 million. It's been lowered from $7 million to $5 million. That move sets him up for a $15 million charge next year, but it helps Miami's efforts to bring in further additions up front in the near future. So, this is this is actually phenomenal news. So, to sum it up, they converted $9 million of his salary into a signing bonus, lowering his cap hit from $7 million to $5 million. So, another restructure that the Dolphins are able to get done. You know, one of the things, and we'll start with this, because there's 2 parts to this that are kind of really interesting. The first part is, I don't think people realize how good Austin Jackson is as a player. Not saying the national media is good at many things, because they're not, depending on who you listen to. Most of them are very surface level. They probably know a lot about the most popular teams in the NFL, but they don't know very much about any other team in the league, which is pretty common. Not saying, but if you listen to most mock drafts or articles that are published by ESPN or NFL.com or videos online on YouTube. Very surface level. Everybody's like, oh, the Dolphins need a tackle. In my opinion, if you watched last year and have followed Austin Jackson's career, Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson, I think, are pretty good players. Like I think Patrick Paul, especially from a run blocking standpoint, can be very special as a player. He actually, in terms of development, was better than Laramie Tunsil was his rookie year. From pretty much every, it's hard to trust the beat writers in Miami. I've already established that. But he had a really good offseason before that season. He had a really good training camp. Had a really good preseason, which we actually could see. And when Teron got hurt, he was really good for a rookie, especially who barely played, coming in and playing competitive. We were trying to make the playoffs at the time. So I really like Patrick Paul from what I've seen so far. He's only going to get better. So I think Chris Greer did that's a pretty good draft class, and getting Patrick Paul and Chop Robinson, two very important positions, and they have a lot of upside. They're both had pretty good rookie seasons, and I'm excited to see where they go. So I think Patrick Paul, to me so far, is the future at tackle, and Austin Jackson I think is a really good right tackle. And has really gotten better at things that he struggled with power rushing and run blocking. I think he's gotten a lot better at that, especially from 2 years ago. I think he's improved a lot. So he's always fit really well in the system, especially when it comes to screens and stuff like that, because he's a really good athlete. Very similar to Armstead in a lot of ways. Maybe not as strong and powerful, but very similar with his athletic ability and his ability to kick out and block in space. Very, very similar. So yeah, my point is that I think the tackle positions are fine, and restructuring him and his cap hit being $15 million is I don't really care. I think he's a quality tackle. I think he can actually make a Pro Bowl. I think he's that talented, and he's still very young. So pushing the contract down the way, this isn't like a 32-year-old player who we're kind of stuck to for a while. This is a young player who's still very good and has continued to improve in his career. So I don't mind kicking the can down the road on somebody like that, and I think he's a very good player. I'm excited to see him get back healthy. And he's done pretty well with injuries since he's come into the league. Decently well. So yeah, the second part of the coin. So I think this is just a good move from all sides. But the second part of this is why they've restructured a lot of players this offseason. Bradley Chubb, Teron Armstead, now Austin Jackson. They haven't done Tua yet, which has been rumored, and they could still do it. Who knows? And I'm sure he would agree to it. Maybe that's coming down the road, and who knows? But what are they making all this cap space for? A lot of Dolphins fans and articles have been written about this, which I think found very interesting. Is they even before they made this move with Austin Jackson, they had enough money to sign their draft class. Why? So it's not like they need the money for the draft class. What are they doing this for? I don't know. Everybody they wanted to re-sign has already re-signed. Some people are speculating it's for a trade. I don't know what trade even makes any sense at all. Maybe Rashawn Slater, Tyreek Hill trade, which is literally would be a terrible trade for the Chargers. I don't know why they would do that. That would be a phenomenal trade for the Dolphins, but I don't think they would make that trade. That would be a really stupid thing to do if you're LA. That's what other trades? There's no trades on the planet Earth that make sense for the Dolphins. There was one for Brandon Ayuk. That doesn't make any sense. The 49ers don't even like receivers. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall. They don't even want Brandon Ayuk. They're having issues with him. You think they want another locker room headache like Tyreek Hill? No. Who's older and has I think he's making more a year. That trade doesn't make any sense. So there's no, I don't really know, even if a trade doesn't involve Tyreek Hill, I don't really know I've seen some trade hypothetical trades for like tight ends, like Hawkinson from Minnesota or George Kittle from San Francisco, those trades don't make any sense either because the draft is loaded with tight ends. It's a very good tight end draft. That doesn't make any sense. That's also not a position of need, like at all. So that doesn't make any sense. This article points out it could be for offensive line additions. I don't know who that could be, unless it's a trade, but most of those trades have already happened, like Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney being traded to Chicago. That was their opportunity to do something like that. Like, that's very rare that you get two quality players like that in a trade. So, and all the guards in the free agent market are gone. So I don't know. Don't really know what this restructure stuff is for. Don't really know what the extra cap space is for. There's no free agents left. I don't really know. And then there's another side to this where it's very strange. Like, Chris Greer, he only has so many lives. And I think the backlash with him it's hard to quantify because it's like, okay, he's had very good drafts. When you compare his drafts to some of the other Dolphins GMs of the last 2 decades, he's easily the best. It's not even close. So, it's hard to criticize him sometimes in a way because it's like, yeah, he's had some... even this last draft class was pretty good. Like, it was pretty good. So, I think he is on the hot seat because of the outside noise. Not to mention the fact that we haven't really won much with him as the GM. He has made some good decisions. He's made some bad ones too. It's very... I don't know how to feel, but Chris Greer is very weird. Just weird. I don't know how to really feel about him. But he only has so many lives. So I doubt if things go awful this year, he gets another season. So I don't really know what the plan is with him. What is he thinking? Is this for a bigger move down the line? I guess we'll have to find out. I mean, there's a lot of things that point to that. One of those being Chris Greer only has so many lives. And it sure does seem like he's used all 9 of them, surviving 3 different head coaches. I love Mike McDaniel. I think he's a really good coach. So I'm rooting for this to work out. I really hope it does work out. And I think it will, depending on how this offseason goes. I mean, it's not over yet. But I don't know. It's definitely something to keep your eye on as a Dolphins fan. Don't really know what it's for. I mean, even when they were trying to get Joey Bosa, I would have hated that move. I don't really... I mean, maybe I think it fit the Dolphins more than it did the Bills in a way because the Dolphins have a better rotation up front than the Bills do, especially on the edge. So I was thinking I guess maybe it makes more sense for Miami, but I didn't really want Joey Bosa anyway. But that's another great example of like, why now with the restructures? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They don't have to have the cap space for the draft class, so it's very weird. I don't see a trade. And Chris Greer, this is probably his last season as a GM for the Dolphins, unless he destroys it, which he can still do. He has 10 draft picks. There's still an off season left. We'll see what happens, but excuse me. I still and we'll get to it, but some of these mock drafts are giving me a headache. Some of them are like, oh, this is joking around. I hate mock drafts so much. I saved this for last because it's like, we've talked about this so many times, and at this point, and I've said this, okay, let's just start with this. Tyreek Hill's in the news again, and it is the dead period. He made he responded to a tweet. The tweet said, this is what he responded to, and this is what the tweet said. Fins Nation, would you be open to trading Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill responded to that tweet with a smiley face emoji and then a peace sign. At this point, if I was running the Dolphins, I would be like, listen, I really can't deal with this guy anymore. Maybe he's had a conversation with Dolphins people or higher ups that it's like, I just like to joke around. which is totally fine if that's the case. Like, if they're okay with it, like, oh, he's just joking around, but not after the press conference that he gave. This stuff to me is just it has to be a migraine. If you're Chris Greer or anybody in the Dolphins organization, like, yeah, you could be joking around, but after that press conference, it's not funny, dude. It's just annoying, and it's super annoying to the fan base as well. Like, at this point, I really could care less if he left. I hope someone is willing to take his cap contract. Just take the contract. I don't even care what I get in return. Just take it. You're taking a headache, like an actual headache, dude, and not a great contract. So, and God bless him. I mean, he put two really good seasons. He was a first team All Pro. Was voted the best player in the NFL by the players. That means something to the Dolphins fans. It means a lot to Dolphins fans, and he's one of the best Dolphins. Even though it's been a short amount of time, he's easily one of the best Dolphins of the last 20 years. Maybe you could argue is the best. So he's done. The trade worked, in my opinion. Did they win a playoff game? No. Would it be cool if he stayed and they won a playoff game? Yeah, that'd be pretty sick. But at this point, it's becoming too much of a headache. He looked awful last year. Whether it was his wrist or his knee, I don't know. He just did not look good. And he doesn't fit the scheme. I've talked about this so many times, but he really doesn't. And the Dolphins have to, like, do so much for him to work on the football field, and it hurts the run game, quite frankly, because when Tyreek Hill's out, it's like, okay, they're running the football. We telegraph stuff so hard in this offense sometimes, probably more than any other team in the NFL, because we have two undersized receivers who suck at blocking, and that's one of the most important things in this scheme is second level blocking. Brian Baldinger had a great video where he was illustrating this, and how many missed blocks that Waddle and Hill had is like it's crazy. So he's a headache. His contract sucks. He's getting older. He had a really off year last year, like really bad. And he doesn't fit the scheme. So like it's like what's the? I feel like smarter organizations or organizations with an established winning tradition, consistently winning tradition, would have already made this trade. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's really just a giant headache. The last thing I want to bring up is, what if the Dolphins make this trade, right? I don't even want to. The dream scenario would be that this contract is completely taken off the books, at least the majority of it. That's the dream scenario. What I really want to talk about is, like, what's the aftermath of this trade? Like, what do the Dolphins do? Because then they would have a receiver. They need to fill that role. Even though Waddle is definitely capable of being a 1, they would still need a receiver. And they have freed up a ton of cap space. So it's like, what's out there other than the draft? Which maybe they could trade up and get Travis Hunter. I mean, the Dolphins could do something like that, which would be super high, but I mean, probably not. So I don't know about that. That's kind of pie in the sky, but unfortunately, he's probably going to be a Patriot, which is just great for everybody involved. But so if you look at the landscape of, like, NFL news, I guess it's like Brandon Ayuk's a big name who's out there. I don't think they would have to trade Tyreek Hill to, I don't know, the Chargers. It's like, okay, we'll take a 6th-round pick, you take most of the contract, whatever. Then it's like, okay, what do we do? How do we add to this roster? Go get a first-team All-Pro who's 25, 20, I think he's 26, who played in this scheme and was dominant in this scheme, who can block, great after the catch, really good route runner, tough, strong. That's everything we would want in a receiver. He doesn't want to be in San Francisco for whatever. That's kind of a red flag. I don't know why he doesn't want to be in San Francisco anymore, but whatever. It's kind of a red flag, Don't really want another Tyreek Hill situation. He does have a big contract, but that would be a nice like flip, if they can make a deal like that happen. Plus, they loved him in the draft. I don't know if people remember this, but they loved Brandon Ayuk in the draft. They actually were going to pick him. I can't remember what year that was, but they were going to pick him, and the 49ers traded up so we couldn't pick him. I think it was San Diego State or Arizona State. He was Arizona State. Uh, so yeah, he would have been a Dolphin. So that's and he's a scheme fit. So uh, maybe that's something that they do. I don't know. That kind of makes a lot of sense. If they're able to get rid of Hill and maybe they pursue a Brandon Ayuk trade. And maybe in the coming days we'll see that. Maybe that's what this tweet is about. Maybe that's what they're working on behind the scenes. Maybe that's why they're restructuring all these contracts. I don't know. But I would be stoked if they did that. If they flipped Tyreek Hill somewhere else and then went off and traded for Brandon Ayuk, that would be awesome. But anyway, yeah, that's I guess one other thing that they can do. And best case scenario in the draft is they draft Campbell. It's like dude. I swear, if we all come together as Dolphins fans and just hope and pray that they pick Campbell or he falls to Miami, then it might happen. Because I really believe if they pick Campbell, now a lot of people have him playing guard in the NFL, which is perfect for us. Uh, I really do believe they're going to win at least 10 games if they have someone like Campbell. And I'm going to be so excited to watch this Dolphins team in this offense actually be able to bully people on the offensive line. That's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be fun to watch to see how much damage Tua can do with something like that. But anyway, that's you can dream. Everybody can dream, okay? And maybe it'll happen. Maybe we'll find out why the Dolphins are clearing this much cap space. Who knows? Shout out to Austin Jackson for taking a pay cut. If Tua's next, then that could be really interesting. But anyway, that's it. This organization is in shambles. And so it's like, what is going on? And I guess we're about to find out. But we really won't know what's going on until after the draft. Please pick an offensive lineman in the first. As long as it's one that's good. If Campbell's there, just pick him. It's just a layup. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.